A police officer throws a centipede on an elderly black woman. What her husband did next will shock you. What would you do if you witnessed an act of cruelty against someone you deeply love? In the peaceful city of Sunville, Anna, a charming 72-year-old black woman, was quietly sweeping the sidewalk in front of her house on a sunny Friday afternoon, January 31st, 2025. The scorching summer sun beat down on the nearly deserted streets of the neighborhood when a police car suddenly stopped in front of her residence. Before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and comment which city you're watching this touching story from. What happened next left Anna and the few passers-by in a state of shock. A visibly agitated police officer got out of the vehicle, holding something in his hands. Without any provocation, he approached the old lady and, in an act of unjustifiable cruelty, threw a huge centipede at her. The terror in Anna's eyes was palpable as she screamed and struggled, trying to get rid of the venomous arthropod. Robert, Anna's husband, known for his calm demeanor and integrity, witnessed the scene from their house window. The expression on his face changed from surprise to a grim determination that no one had ever seen before. What followed was a series of events that shook the foundations of the small town and raised profound questions about justice, revenge, and the limits of human endurance in the face of injustice. As Anna was being rescued by neighbors, Robert disappeared for several hours. What was he planning? How far could a peaceful man go to defend his wife's honor and demand justice? The next 24 hours would reveal a side of Robert that nobody imagined existed, leaving the community torn between horror and admiration. As the news spread like wildfire, tension in the town mounted. The case quickly took on national proportions, exposing the open wounds of structural racism and abuse of authority. But the story was far from over. What Robert did next not only shocked everyone, but also triggered a national debate on the limits of law and the power of vengeance. Are some injustices too great to be forgiven? How far would you go to protect those you love? The sun rose over Sunville, revealing a transformed city. The streets, usually quiet at this hour, were filled with journalists and curious onlookers. Anna's case had become the epicenter of a media storm that was shaking the entire nation. Anna, still shaken by the previous day's events, sat on her porch, surrounded by family and supportive neighbors. Her face, marked by time and wisdom, now bore an expression of deep sadness and indignation. She had spent the night in the hospital, treated for shock and minor injuries caused by her fall during the incident. "I never thought I'd live to 72 to endure such a thing," she whispered, as her granddaughter Sophia held her wrinkled hand. Sophia, a young lawyer of 28, was struggling to contain her anger. "Grandma, this can't go unpunished. We will fight for justice." Meanwhile, at the local police station, Commander Lee, a middle-aged man with 25 years of service, faced the officer responsible for the act. Officer Tom, 32, known for his explosive temper, was in custody and displayed a mixture of remorse and fear. "For heaven's sake, Commander, I don't know what came over me," Tom pleaded. "I had just come out of a stressful intervention. I saw this centipede in the car and I just lost my head." Commander Lee, usually measured, was struggling to contain his fury. "Lost your head? You've dishonored the entire police force, Tom. An elderly lady, for goodness sake." On the other side of town, at the Central Cafe, a group of residents was heatedly discussing the incident. Among them was Max, a 25-year-old black man and friend of the family. "This is the reality we know, but pretend not to see," Max declared, pounding his fist on the table. "If this had happened in an upscale neighborhood with a white lady, this cop would already be in jail." The tension in the city was palpable. Human rights groups were beginning to mobilize, demanding exemplary punishment for the officer and measures against institutional racism. On social media, the case was going viral, with hashtags like Justice for Anna and Stop Racism gaining popularity by the minute. Meanwhile, Robert remained nowhere to be found. No one knew his whereabouts since the incident. Some feared the worst, others speculated about possible acts of revenge. The absence of this man, known for his calm and wisdom, added an extra layer of mystery and apprehension to an already volatile situation. By late afternoon, a demonstration began to form in front of the police station. Hundreds of people of all ages and backgrounds carried signs and shouted for justice. Among them stood Imam Karim, a respected spiritual leader in the community. "We cannot let hatred and violence contaminate our hearts," the Imam preached to the crowd. "But we also cannot remain silent in the face of injustice. We need real changes, not just empty words." As night fell, tension in the city reached its peak. No one knew what the next day would bring: justice, vengeance, or something even more surprising. At home, Anna looked out the window, her mind torn between worry for her husband's fate and hope that something good might emerge from this painful situation. She sighed deeply, feeling the weight of decades of struggling against prejudice. "Robert, my old man, where have you gone?" she whispered to herself as a solitary tear rolled down her wrinkled face. The city waited, holding its breath for the next chapter of this story that had touched the heart of the nation and exposed deep wounds that many preferred to ignore. The dawn of the second day after the incident brought with it an atmosphere charged with tension and expectation. Sunville, usually peaceful, was now bubbling with an almost palpable energy. From early morning, a crowd formed in front of the local police station. Placards demanding justice and exemplary punishment for the officer responsible for the attack on Anna were brandished by determined hands. Among the protesters were people of all ages and social classes, united by a common feeling of indignation. Inside the police station, Commander Lee faced the biggest challenge of his career. The pressure from above was immense. The case had risen to the highest levels of government, and a quick and exemplary resolution was demanded. "Commander, the Minister of Interior is personally following this case," the Chief of Police said during a video call. "We need immediate action. The officer involved must be suspended and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." Meanwhile, at the home of Anna and Robert, a small army of journalists jostled, trying to get exclusive statements. Sophia, the granddaughter lawyer, had assumed the role of family spokesperson. "My grandmother is deeply upset, not only by the attack itself, but by everything it represents," Sophia stated, her voice firm despite the obvious emotion. "This is not an isolated case. It's a reflection of a systemic problem that must be confronted." Robert's continued absence added an extra layer of mystery and concern. Rumors began to circulate in the city. Some said they had seen him in a neighboring town. Others swore he was preparing some kind of retaliation. By mid-afternoon, an unexpected turn of events shook the city. An anonymous video began circulating on social media, showing Officer Tom in compromising situations. In the video, he was seen accepting bribes and assaulting other citizens on previous occasions. The origin of the video was a mystery, but its impact was immediate and devastating. Within hours, Anna's case was no longer just an isolated incident, but had become a symbol of the fight against corruption and abuse of power. The city streets, already agitated, now seemed on the verge of explosion. Groups of protesters marched towards City Hall, demanding a full investigation not only into the incident with Anna, but into the entire police force. At the local hospital, where Anna had been taken for a routine checkup, doctors noticed something worrying. The stress of recent days had significantly affected her health. Her blood pressure was dangerously high, and she showed signs of extreme exhaustion. "Anna needs absolute rest," Dr. Martin explained to Sophia. "Stress can cause serious complications in a person her age." This news added a new level of urgency to the situation. Anna's family, already shaken by recent events, now faced additional worry about her health. Meanwhile, in a surprising turn of events, Officer Tom, who was in custody, asked to speak. In an interrogation room facing Commander Lee and a prosecutor, he began to reveal a network of corruption that went far beyond the incident with Anna. "I'm not proud of what I did," Tom said, his voice trembling, "but this is just the tip of the iceberg. For years, we've been pushed to act discriminatorily, to turn a blind eye to certain crimes. And those who don't obey." His revelations promised to shake the structures of local power, implicating prominent figures in politics and public security. As night fell, Sunville found itself at a boiling point. The case that had begun with an act of cruelty towards an elderly black woman had transformed into a catalyst for profound changes. And there was still the unresolved question: where was Robert? His absence continued to intrigue everyone. Some feared he might do something drastic. Others hoped his eventual reappearance would bring some sort of resolution to this chaotic situation. The city waited, tense and expectant, for the next day's developments. What other revelations would emerge? What would be the fate of Anna, Officer Tom, and all those involved in this case that had captured the attention of the entire country? The third day after the incident dawned with an atmosphere charged with anticipation. Sunville, once an almost invisible dot on the map, was now the epicenter of a media and social hurricane. Officer Tom's revelations had opened a Pandora's box. Journalists from across the country flocked to the city, eager for more details about the network of corruption that seemed to extend far beyond the local police station. At the hospital, Anna received constant visits from friends, family, and even strangers who wanted to express their solidarity. Sophia, her granddaughter, split her time between caring for her grandmother and coordinating the family's legal defense. "We don't just want justice for my grandmother," Sophia declared during an impromptu press conference in the hospital corridors. "We want systemic change. This case has brought to light deep problems in our society, and we can't let this be forgotten or minimized." Meanwhile, an unexpected plot began to unfold. Residents from the city's peripheral neighborhoods began sharing their own stories of police abuse and discrimination on social media. What had started as a trickle quickly turned into a torrent of testimonies, creating a shocking mosaic of long-ignored injustices. In the city center, a new demonstration was taking shape. This time, it wasn't just about Anna or the corrupt officer. It was a collective cry for change, for a more equitable justice system, for a future where skin color would not determine how a person would be treated by authorities. Among the protesters, the figure of Imam Karim stood out. His impromptu sermon on the steps of the main mosque captured the spirit of the moment. "We cannot let hatred consume us." His voice resonated across the square. "But neither can we remain silent in the face of injustice. This is the moment to transform our indignation into action, our anger into positive change." At the police station, Commander Lee faced his own moral dilemma. Tom's revelations implicated several of his colleagues and superiors. He found himself facing a difficult choice: remain loyal to the institution or help expose the truth, however painful it might be. After hours of reflection, Lee made his decision. In a bold move, he directly contacted the chief prosecutor, offering to testify and provide additional evidence on corruption within the department. "I didn't become a police officer for this," he told the prosecutor. "It's time to clean house, whatever it takes." Meanwhile, a new element further complicated the situation. An anonymous video began circulating on social media, showing Robert, Anna's missing husband, in a neighboring town. In the video, he appeared to be meeting with a group of people, some of whom were familiar faces from local politics. Speculation ran wild. Was Robert preparing some sort of retaliation? Or was there something more behind his disappearance? Tension in the city reached new heights. The police, already demoralized by recent revelations, now found themselves pressed to locate Robert before something more serious happened. At the hospital, Anna watched all of this on her room's television, her face a mixture of worry and determination. "Robert has always been a man of peace," she told Sophia. "But he's also always been a man of justice. Whatever he's doing, I'm sure it's for the greater good." As night fell on Sunville, the city seemed to be on the brink of a profound transformation. The case that had begun with an act of cruelty towards an elderly woman had become the catalyst for a much broader movement. The question hanging in the air was, what would tomorrow bring? Justice, more revelations, or something completely unexpected? The fourth day since the incident with Anna dawned on an electric atmosphere in Sunville. The once quiet city now seemed to be at the epicenter of a social revolution on a microscale. From the early hours of the morning, a shocking development shook the community. Robert had reappeared, and in a way no one could have predicted. Anna's husband emerged in front of City Hall, accompanied by a diverse group of people: lawyers, investigative journalists, and, surprisingly, a few retired police officers. In his hands, Robert held a thick folder filled with documents. "What happened to my wife was the last straw," Robert declared, his voice firm despite his advanced age. "But the truth is, this has been happening for years, not just here but across the country. And today, we have proof." It was then that the true impact of Robert's disappearance was revealed. During the days he had been absent, he had gathered a group of determined individuals to expose years of corruption, abuse of power, and systemic racial discrimination in the city. The documents Robert presented were explosive. There were records of bribes, orders to direct police actions against specific communities, and even evidence of manipulation of crime statistics to keep certain neighborhoods under constant surveillance. The revelation caused an immediate uproar. Journalists pressed around Robert, while on social media, the hashtag #RobertHero quickly became a national trend. At the hospital, Anna watched the press conference on television, tears of pride streaming down her weathered face. "That's my Robert," she whispered, squeezing her granddaughter Sophia's hand. "I always knew he would do the right thing." The authorities' reaction was swift and chaotic. The mayor called an emergency meeting while the police command went into crisis management mode. Commander Lee, who had already decided to cooperate with the investigations, now felt validated in his decision. "This is bigger than all of us," he declared to his subordinates. "It's time to really clean house." Meanwhile, in the streets, a new wave of demonstrations was taking shape. This time, however, the tone was different. There was a sense of hope that real change might finally happen. Imam Karim emerged once again as a voice of reason and unity. "This is a moment of transformation," he preached to a crowd gathered in the central square. "But we must remember that real change begins within each of us. This is not about vengeance, but about justice and reconciliation." As the day progressed, the repercussions of Robert's revelations spread like ripples. At the national level, the government announced a task force to investigate the allegations. At the local level, the Sunville case was beginning to be cited as an example of the need for deep reforms in public security institutions. By late afternoon, Robert was finally able to visit Anna in the hospital. The reunion was emotional, broadcast live by several TV channels. "My darling," said Robert, holding his wife's hands, "I hope you can forgive me for disappearing like that, but I had to do it. For you, for us, for everyone who has suffered like we have." Anna, with a serene smile, replied, "There's nothing to forgive, my love. You did what needed to be done. I'm proud of you." This touching moment captured the heart of the nation. On social media, Robert and Anna's story became a symbol of resistance, love, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the evening, as the city finally began to calm down, a sense of change hung in the air. The case that had begun with an act of cruelty towards an elderly black woman had transformed into a catalyst for social revolution on a local scale, with the potential to resonate far beyond Sunville's borders. The question everyone was asking now was, what would happen next? How would this wave of changes unfold in the coming days and weeks? And more importantly, would it be possible to maintain this momentum to create lasting changes? The days following Robert's revelations were marked by intense activity in Sunville. The city, once an almost forgotten point on the map, was now at the center of national attention, a microcosm of the tensions and hopes that permeated the entire country. The task force, announced by the government, arrived in the city with great fanfare. Led by Judge Claire, known for her integrity and determination, the team immediately began sifting through the documents presented by Robert and gathering testimonies. "We're here to do justice, not to point fingers," Judge Claire declared at her first press conference. "Our goal is to understand how we got here, and more importantly, how we can ensure this never happens again." As the investigations progressed, the consequences of the revelations began to manifest in unexpected ways. Several police officers, feeling under pressure, began to submit their resignations. Others, inspired by Robert's courage and Commander Lee's stance, volunteered to testify about abusive practices they had witnessed or participated in. At City Hall, the atmosphere was one of apprehension. The mayor, who had initially tried to downplay the scandal, now found himself cornered. Rumors of a possible resignation began to circulate, fueled by leaks suggesting his name appeared in some of the documents presented by Robert. Meanwhile, Anna was discharged from the hospital, returning home amid a veritable procession of supporters. Her residence, once a modest and quiet home, was now a pilgrimage point for activists, journalists, and ordinary citizens who wanted to express their solidarity. "I never imagined I'd live to see something like this," Anna commented, sitting on her porch, observing the commotion in the street. "It's sad that it took so much suffering, but maybe now things can really change." The Sunville story began to inspire similar movements in other cities. Groups of citizens, encouraged by Robert's example, began to organize to investigate and denounce cases of police abuse and corruption in their own communities. However, not everything was rosy. As the investigations progressed, revealing connections to powerful figures at the regional and even national level, pressure on the city increased. Veiled threats began to circulate, targeting key witnesses and even members of the task force. Robert and Anna, now unwitting symbols of a larger movement, had to accept constant police protection. The irony of the situation was lost on no one. The same police who, just days ago, were viewed with mistrust, were now tasked with protecting the catalysts of change. Amidst this whirlwind, individual stories of courage and redemption began to emerge. Officer Tom, responsible for the initial attack on Anna, surprised everyone by asking to testify publicly. "What I did is unforgivable," he declared, his voice filled with emotion. "But I want to use my experience to help change the system from within. If given the chance, I'll dedicate the rest of my life to repairing the harm I've caused." As the week drew to a close, Sunville found itself at a tipping point. The changes initiated over the past months were beginning to solidify into new structures and practices. But the path ahead remained uncertain. On a cool October evening, Robert and Anna sat on their porch, as they did every night. Observing the streets of their neighborhood, now more lively and welcoming than ever, they reflected on the incredible journey they had undertaken. "Do you think it will last, my old man?" Anna asked, her voice filled with hope and a tinge of apprehension. Robert gently squeezed his wife's hand. "I don't know, my dear, but I know we've planted a seed, and with care and dedication, it can grow into something beautiful and lasting." As the couple contemplated the future, the city around them continued its transformation, a living testament to the power of resistance, community unity, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The weeks that followed brought both consolidation and new challenges to the transforming Sunville. 6 months after the incident that had sparked a local revolution, the community found itself at a crucial juncture. The task force led by Judge Clare was reaching its final phase. The preliminary report, which had leaked to the press, revealed a complex tapestry of systemic corruption that extended far beyond the city limits. The ramifications reached high into regional and even national government echelons. "What we've uncovered here is just the tip of the iceberg," Judge Clare stated at a press conference. "But we've also found inspiring examples of integrity and courage that give us hope for the future." The report's release triggered a new wave of protests and debates across the country. Sunville, once a forgotten town, was now seen as a symbol of resistance and reform. Locally, changes continued to unfold. The special election for mayor, held the previous month, had resulted in a surprising victory for the progressive ticket led by young activists. Amina, a 35-year-old human rights lawyer, became the youngest mayor in the city's history. "Our work is just beginning," Amina declared in her inauguration speech. "We're going to transform Sunville into a model of transparent and equitable governance for the entire nation." Within the police force, Commander Lee continued his mission of reform. The new training program, focused on human rights and community policing, was beginning to show promising results. Incidents of police abuse had significantly decreased, and community trust in law enforcement was slowly being rebuilt. Robert and Anna, who had become reluctant local celebrities, continued to play an active role in the community. They had become mentors to young activists and were frequently invited to speak at schools and community events. "It's never too late to make a difference," Anna often told young people. "Each of you has the power to change the world, starting with your own community." However, not everything was victorious. As investigations deepened and threatened powerful figures, resistance began to intensify. Attempts to discredit the reform movement appeared in national media, and rumors of political interference in the investigations began to circulate. Mayor Amina faced her first major test when promised government funds for social programs were suddenly frozen, apparently in retaliation for the task force's revelations. "They may try to starve us financially," Amina declared at a packed town hall meeting, "but they can't kill our spirit. We'll find a way." The community responded with an impressive display of solidarity. Crowdfunding campaigns were launched, local businesses offered to sponsor community programs, and a network of mutual support strengthened. Amidst these challenges, unexpected news brought new breath to the struggle. The Sunville case had attracted the attention of international human rights organizations. A United Nations delegation announced they would visit the city to study its reform model and potentially use it as an example in other parts of the world. This news injected a new wave of enthusiasm and determination into the community. The prospect that their local struggle could have a global impact revived the spirit of many who were beginning to feel tired. On a starry November evening, Robert and Anna walked hand in hand through the city's Central Park, recently renovated thanks to a community effort. As they observed families gathered, children playing freely, and groups of young people animatedly discussing politics and social change, the couple exchanged a look of mutual understanding. "Look at what we've started, my dear," Robert said, his voice heavy with emotion. Anna squeezed her husband's hand, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and determination. "And this is just the beginning, my love. Just the beginning." As the couple contemplated the future, the city around them continued its transformation, a living testament to the power of resistance, community unity, and the relentless pursuit of justice. However, challenges loomed on the horizon. How would Sunville maintain its momentum in the face of increasing external pressures? Would the reforms withstand the test of time and potential political changes? And how would the city's experience translate to other communities facing similar struggles? These questions hung in the air as Sunville prepared for the next chapter in its ongoing transformation, a beacon of hope in a world hungry for positive change. As winter descended upon Sunville, the city found itself at a critical juncture. Nearly a year had passed since the incident that had sparked a local revolution, and the community was now facing its greatest test yet. The task force's final report, released in early December, sent shockwaves through the nation. It not only confirmed the extent of corruption within Sunville, but also implicated high-ranking officials at the regional and national levels. The revelations sparked a political firestorm, with calls for resignations and reform echoing across the country. In Sunville, Mayor Amina faced mounting pressure. The frozen funds had forced her administration to make difficult decisions, cutting back on some promised programs. Yet, the community's spirit of solidarity remained strong. Local businesses and citizens rallied together, organizing fundraisers and volunteer initiatives to fill the gaps. Robert and Anna, now in their mid-70s, continued to be a source of inspiration. They had become regular speakers at schools and community centers, sharing their story and encouraging civic engagement. Their living room had turned into an unofficial meeting place for young activists and community leaders. "We might be old," Anna would often say with a twinkle in her eye, "but our dream for a just society is as young as ever." The police force, under Commander Lee's leadership, had made significant strides. The new community policing model was showing positive results, with crime rates down and public trust slowly rebuilding. However, challenges remained. Some officers resistant to change had left, creating a temporary staffing shortage. On the national stage, Sunville had become a symbol of both hope and controversy. Reform advocates pointed to it as a model of positive change, while critics argued that the city's approach was too radical and unsustainable. The United Nations delegation's visit in late January marked a turning point. Their report praised Sunville's efforts, recommending aspects of its reform model for implementation in other parts of the world. This international recognition provided a much-needed boost to the city's morale and legitimacy. However, with greater visibility came greater scrutiny. National media descended upon Sunville. Their coverage, a mix of inspiring success stories and sensationalized accounts of the challenges the city faced. As spring approached, a new challenge emerged. A group of lawmakers, backed by powerful interests affected by the corruption investigations, proposed legislation that would limit the autonomy of local governments in implementing police reforms. This move threatened to undo much of what Sunville had achieved. Mayor Amina, along with Robert, Anna, and other community leaders, found themselves thrust into a national debate. They traveled to the capital, testifying before legislative committees and rallying support for their cause. "What we've built in Sunville isn't just about our city," Amina declared in a passionate speech. "It's about the future of our entire nation. We're fighting for a world where justice and equality aren't just words, but lived realities." Back in Sunville, the community watched these developments with a mixture of pride and anxiety. The city had come so far, but the road ahead remained uncertain. In late March, as the legislative battle raged on, Sunville faced an unexpected crisis. A severe storm hit the region, causing significant damage. The community's response, however, was nothing short of remarkable. Citizens from all walks of life came together, demonstrating the strength of the bonds forged through their shared struggle for justice. As Robert and Anna helped distribute supplies at a local shelter, they exchanged a knowing look. "You know, my dear," Robert said, "a year ago, I never would have believed our little act of standing up for what's right could lead to all this." Anna smiled, her eyes reflecting years of wisdom and newfound hope. "That's the thing about doing what's right, love. You never know how far the ripples will spread." As night fell on Sunville, the city stood as a testament to the power of community, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but the spirit of its people remained unbroken. The story of Sunville was far from over. In fact, in many ways, it felt like it was just beginning. As Sunville approached the one-year anniversary of the incident that had sparked its transformation, the city stood at a crossroads. The legislative battle in the capital had reached its climax, with the fate of Sunville's reforms hanging in the balance. On a crisp spring morning, news broke that would change everything. In a surprising turn of events, the controversial bill limiting local autonomy and police reforms had been defeated. The testimony of Mayor Amina, Robert, Anna, and countless other Sunville residents had swayed enough lawmakers to vote against it. The city erupted in celebration. Spontaneous gatherings formed in the streets, with people of all ages and backgrounds coming together to mark this victory. It wasn't just a win for Sunville. It was a triumph for the idea that grassroots movements could effect real change. In the following weeks, Sunville found itself at the center of a national conversation about community-led reform. Delegations from cities across the country began to visit, eager to learn from the Sunville model. Robert and Anna, now in their late 70s, watched these developments with a mixture of pride and amazement. On the day of the anniversary, they were honored at a city-wide celebration. A year ago, we were just two old folks swept up in something bigger than ourselves, Robert said, addressing the crowd. Today, we stand before you as proof that it's never too late to stand up for what's right. Anna, her eyes glistening with tears, added, "What happened to me was terrible, but look at what's grown from that pain. We've transformed tragedy into triumph, hate into love." Mayor Amina used the occasion to announce new initiatives, including a citizen oversight committee for the police force and expanded social programs funded by a combination of recovered corruption money and community contributions. Commander Lee, standing alongside former Officer Tom, who had become a key advocate for police reform, spoke of the ongoing challenges and the commitment to continuous improvement. As the sun set on Sunville that evening, the city felt different. The air was charged with hope and possibility. The journey hadn't been easy, and there were surely more challenges ahead, but the community had proven its resilience and determination. Robert and Anna, walking hand in hand through the city square, stopped to observe the scene around them. Families picnicked on the grass, young people engaged in animated discussions about politics and social change, and police officers chatted amiably with residents. "Look at what we've done, my love," Robert said, squeezing Anna's hand. Anna smiled, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and hope. "No, darling. Look at what we've all done together." And so, under a star-filled sky, Sunville continued its journey. No longer a forgotten town, but a beacon of hope and change for the entire nation. The story that had begun with an act of cruelty had blossomed into a powerful testament to the strength of community, the importance of standing up for justice, and the incredible changes that can happen when ordinary people decide to make a difference. The end, or perhaps just the beginning of a new chapter. 5 years have passed since the events that transformed Sunville. The city, now internationally recognized as a model of reform and citizen participation, continues to inspire changes across the nation. Robert and Anna, though older, remain active in the community, guiding a new generation of leaders. Their stories are taught in schools as examples of courage and perseverance. On a sunny afternoon, the couple visits the new Museum of Social Transformation. Standing before an exhibit that tells their story, Anna whispers to Robert, "Look, my love, our struggle has become history, but the change we initiated continues to live on." Dear viewers, if you've made it this far, your journey with Robert and Anna is over. But the reflection this story inspires is just beginning. If this tale has touched your heart and made you think about social change, justice, and the power of collective action, don't let that feeling fade away. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you've watched until the end, comment "I watched until the end" to show your support and engagement. Don't forget to click on the end screen video that will appear soon. You'll find more inspiring content there to continue this important conversation. Together we can make a difference. Thank you for watching.